Did you notice that in the film they never say from which country she is?
I noticed. I love it. It's so good. I have a theory.
Oh, I have a theory too, yeah. She's not Dutch, but she's definitely Northern European.
Yes.
She's also her father is the king, and she is the next in line.
She is the crown princess.
And I don't think there's anyone else.
They don't actually use that term. They say heir to the throne.
Yes.
But we're talking 1953, and in most royal dues, it was still a male inheritance line.
Depending on the country. I mean, England, yes, but some of the Northern European countries, no.
Well, the Netherlands, yes.
The Netherlands was sort of opt-out because
there was no choice of gender.
There was no choice of gender because there was literally just either females all the time or males all the time, which is much earlier. So
the whole thing didn't
come up.
Occur and still hasn't occurred because there still has been no choices for like a century and a half. No, 2 centuries.
But some other countries in the north have made a choice. Of what direction are we going to go when it comes
up. Netherlands has made a choice now. That now it's the first child in line.
Yeah, who is willing to do it.
That's a very recent law change.
Yeah.
So she has no brothers, that's for sure. And she has no older sisters.
She has no younger sisters.
She probably has no sisters at all.
I think she's alone.
No siblings.
And that puts a problem on her that she is the next in line, and because there's nobody else, her responsibility is much higher than for somebody who has like any siblings.
And this happened to Victoria. This happened to the heir to the Danish throne. And this happened to the Netherlands multiple times, but certainly Wilhelmina.
And Juliana.
So they put an effort in to get Juliana married very quickly and made sure that there were multiple heirs in as far as that is possible, of course.
And she
Wilhelmina did her best as well.
Basically, Juliana did sit still for having lots of children. She enjoyed having children.
Yes, but
so she's not against her wanting to. You know?
The others would have been certainly showed effort to do so. It's not that they didn't want to have more children.
Yes.
So this is a big problem for her because she is the heir, and therefore when she says duty at the end there, she says, "I know my duty." If you ever use that word duty again, basically she's saying you would see a dust cloud here, that instead of me saying, yes, I will do this for the rest of my life, because she knows. The other question that arises is, just how old is she supposed to be? Because she's on tour by herself, but she is sort of being treated and acts like
no, but that's a teenager. That is the premise of this movie, and a very good premise is that this is a coming of age story for her. Yes. It doesn't really matter how old she is still a child in the way she is treated. Yes, and afterwards she is not a child. Yes. She is now ready to be not a child anymore. Yes. She's now grown up, and so the age, it doesn't really matter. As long as she's not too young, but she's not too young.
Yeah, I had that on my list to talk about coming of age as well. And one of the problems with it is that she needs to do it in 24 hours. And that is a whirlwind, and that's why this movie is very interesting and probably wouldn't be able to be done later, much later. Like in the now, she doesn't have a day. She has more than a day to decide stuff.
because film is kind of, it is a rom-com up to the last couple of scenes, literally last 2 scenes, make it not a rom-com. But if you want to take it seriously, people, if you meet somebody in 24 hours, you cannot make a choice for that person. What would happen after this thing is done, and if it turns out that she keeps thinking about him and he keeps thinking about her, then she can make an overture towards him, and they can actually they can actually do a dating thing, because you need much more than 24 hours to make a life-changing decision. This the kind of stuff they do in rom-coms all the time, like change your life around in 24 hours. It's ridiculous. It's not real. And that is why she doesn't do that.
Poor decisions. Yes.
She doesn't choose him in 24 hours. She chooses to grow up in that time, but she still has a long way to go, and she needs to percolate about this, and that's from now on. And then maybe if she decides, I want to learn about this guy for a real, as in spouse, as in want to marry this guy, then she has to do a dating thing with this guy, with him. Yeah. And she has, but because of her position, she is going to be the one who has to make the overtures.
Yes, and then she would have. That's also assuming that they're going to allow her to choose a commoner and an American.
If she's Northern European, maybe.
Yeah, if she has gained enough agency and will continue to gain enough agency, because that is what the coming of age does for her, is she's being treated like a child and lets them treat her like a child. But then she comes back and she now has agency, and she tells them to basically go themselves with all their babying. She's not going to be handled anymore. She will do what is necessary, and she will do it well.
And in combination with history, actual history, the reason that in England in 1937, something like that, they let the heir go when he said, I want to marry somebody inappropriate. He was already ready to be crowned, but he said he wanted to marry somebody that they didn't want.
Yeah, he was king.
He was king,
he had to
but
abdicate,
he had to actually abdicate. But I think he wasn't crowned. He wasn't actually physically crowned
yet.
Yet.
I don't know that, but he was king. Yeah.
Yeah, he was king, so he abdicated because he wanted a lady that people didn't.
She was an American divorcee.
Yeah. Doesn't really matter, but they let him go, and the reason for that is because a generation and some earlier, a prince in Austria wanted a lady who was inappropriate.
Oh dear!
And they said, "Yeah, tough cookies. You're gonna not marry her and just do what we say." And then he said, "Well, tough cookies. We're gonna kill ourselves," and that's what he did. So your choices are: you can have a dead prince and that lady with him, or you can have an abdicated king, or you can let them marry whom they want, which is what the current generation now. Our king has married the lady that he wanted. He said it when he was still a prince. He said, I'm going to marry who I want. And people said, yeah. And that's what he did. And at least one royal in Sweden has done something similar. I think he married a lady who already had children. So the Northern Europeans, they're doing it. And so
if she can't do it in the 21st century, then when can you?
So she has, if she's Northern European, she has options for in that school of thought. She can tell
and
her
the smaller
father.
The country is that she's from, the more options she has.
Yes.
Let's be honest. There's less pressure on, but there's enough pressure on her that they are dependent on her. There is nobody else.
But she
will do her duty.
He would naturalize to her country.
They would have to.
Yeah, because she cannot. Yeah. If she's the heir, if she's going to be the queen at some point, then she has duties, and she has to stay.
For Joe, that wouldn't be a problem because he's already living his life in Italy as an American expat. So
yeah, but he wants to go home.
He seriously wants to go home. So that's my thing about Joe. Does he have a gambling problem?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, he does. He is in for $500. You have to put a zero behind that, so that's $5,000 in current day money. With his editor of the newspaper,
and
he was losing his money at the poker game.
Yeah.
And he was borrowing money from Irving, which that one was correct because they were expecting a $5,000, so that's a $50,000 payout for this story.
Yeah, but he borrowed 50 equivalent of $50 of Irving, who also doesn't have any money.
Well, Irving is doing a lot better than he is.
Irving is a photographer, and photography is very expensive, so you have to have more of a cash flow. That's why Irving has money.
And Irving, I think he is also a an artist photographer because of what he was doing with the girl and the
Yeah,
fishing
he
lure.
was not just doing. He was not just doing news. He was doing all kinds.
Yeah,
he was doing anything.
He's certainly he's a happening guy. Joan, he's also a happening guy. He knows a lot of people. I just think that is the money business with him, not so good, because we also found out he's 2 months late on rent, so he's in for everybody with money. And there's no way he's going to pay that all back. Later he says to the editor, he says, take it out of my... take the 500 that he bet. Because he didn't need to bet on this story on top of the payout that he was expecting. The bet was purely to try to get rid of his 500 that he owes the editor.
And because he's addicted to gambling.
And I think he has a gambling problem. That's what I'm saying.
It also harked back to the fact that I think this plot is the same one as It Happened One Night. It's the same plot. It is the somewhat shady newspaper person who meets a famous person for whatever reason, and they take a road trip together. And the conclusion is different, but that the fact that he's shady is not just the gambling, but also he tries to take a camera of a little girl. He just to steal her camera. Yeah. And in It Happened One Night, the same thing happens. The same thing.
Not so good.
He tries to rob somebody. He tries to literally tries to rob somebody.
But this guy is much more upstanding than that. I think that if that was a rewrite of or a retelling of this Happened One Night thing, then that's actually a leftover that they should have taken out in the final product.
I think so too.
Because Joe is a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's a solid guy.
Yeah, and it at least it looks right now as a moment of complete. You lost the plot here. You lost the plot.
Yeah, and of course the girl screams and the teacher comes, and all she needs to do is take a look at him and go, "You're not serious about this," and he's immediately out of there. And that shows that this was maybe somebody was given a mandate to write it again, right? It Happened One Night again, and just happened to write something good.
Well, this is written by there's a
group of people. Yes.
Well, no, there's actually a story to how this was written, because it says now it says story and screenplay by Trumbo, but it didn't used to say that because Trumbo was blacklisted. Yeah. And so he wrote this and a whole bunch of other things while he was blacklisted, and the Mr. Ian McClellan Hunter is the one who was officially on the.
And then you've got Don Dighton as screenplay.
Yeah, and I think just some extra bits. But this guy also wrote Exodus, Spartacus. Right. There's a great biopic of it out there I saw, and it's really good. So it's a very interesting story. But this guy was very interesting, and he writes just good stuff. But I think it's very possible that he harked back onto, because there is a lot to improve on the It Happened One Night story, the basic story, and it's like he's not going so close to the story that you can call like copyright or blah, anything like that. It's just roughly the same idea of a slightly shady guy, newspaper
and
guy,
and
a classy woman who has a problem with trying to stay secret, and what happens then. The conclusion in this one is very different from the one in It Happened One Night, and I like this one better, and I still think that up until those last two scenes, when they say the scene where they say goodbye and the scene in the meeting of the press, anything before that is just rom-com. But that last two things makes it a drama, a good coming-of-age drama. I think for her, certainly coming-of-age drama.
Yeah, it's her coming-of-age story, and originally it was written as his story. And they pitched it to Gregory Peck as such. They pitched it to
Cary Grant.
Yeah, Cary Grant and one other. So everybody in this movie was third choice. It was not their A choice.
Cary Grant was worried that he was a little bit too old for Audrey Hepburn, because that's just Audrey's. Audrey was actually built lower down because she was an unknown, and Gregory Peck bumped her up later, but he was to be the big guy.
Because it must have been pitched to him as, now you're going to be the guy, and there's going to be this princess, and da 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 da. And we do follow him, but we also follow her. It's really equal. And when you watch it from my perspective, it's her story. And certainly when I was much younger. And when I now watch it now, I can also see his story.
His story is definitely
I could
there,
see
yes.
that men would be watching it, men that identify, or people, whoever identifies with the guy in the story, would watch it from his perspective. And go, no, it's his story. So it's all in the movie. This movie is so cleverly put together.
Oh yeah.
And I was watching it for, I don't know, if I've seen it at least 10 times, probably more in my life. I was watching it again with much pleasure, and I was really appreciating the pacing, the direction, how they go from one thing to the next. Every step they take, there's nothing superfluous and there's nothing glossed over.
Yeah. And I really liked that because it is filmed in Rome. I liked that the feel that I always had from Italy, and the few times we've been to Rome, it is really there. They take the time to have her walk around the streets and have some of the 1953 version of Rome happen there.
And the meeting on the Spanish Steps. So she goes to sit there with her ice cream cone going, this is the best thing in my life ever. I bought myself an ice cream cone.
And it's still the best thing in your life ever to go sit on the Spanish Steps in Rome.
This is what everybody does, and everybody should do if you ever get to Rome. So it's so perfectly done. Willy Wyler was a European originally. I mean, he was naturalized American way, way earlier. But you can see that he understands also with all the language in all the different languages where she meets and has to say, how do you do, so happy, etc. And she says it in at least four or five different languages. And the German is perfect.
Yeah, and when she doesn't know the language,
she says nothing, or she says thank you. Yeah,
which is a smart choice. Yes.
Yeah, and so they were all aware, because you got Audrey, who is at least trilingual, and you've got the director, who is at least bilingual, German and English. And the whole production was set in Rome. Yeah. So if they say, oh, we need all these different people from the international press, and we need international
guests.
high-end guests.
We have the Indian guests, and
we had the people with names sing wherever they come from, Far East something. Yeah. And so there were people of color there. So all you Bridgerton fans, there are people of color there in the high class there. So yeah, it's all in there, and it is correct. They would be there because she is visiting. So anybody who is visiting Rome at that point would be at court. Of that class would be at court to meet her. I think this is because she's the crown princess. This is a separate thing because Italy doesn't have any more royalty in 1953 or now. They are republic of some sort. I'd have to look it up, but there are no royalty since 18 something or other. So they have the palaces from way back when, but they don't have like the moments to do stuff like in the Netherlands, because we have a king. We have if a president comes, he can go see the king, and there's a palace, and there's their home, and that we have all of that. But I'm not sure what they have. They must have something. But I think for something like this, they're going to organize something specifically. But they have the locations for it, so it's the locations. Oh. I really liked the locations that they were apparently able to film around town. So it said on the Wikipedia that this is part of the Italian period of Hollywood, that they had lots of access to everything Italian at the time.
all these landmarks that you've ever been. If you've ever been to Rome, then you know, like Castel Sant'Angelo and the Colosseum and
Trevi Fountain.
Yes.
And the back streets and stuff. But they also went to film in Cinecitta. So
yeah, but that's inside stuff. That's studio.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was actually my open question. They never say what that is.
I think his apartment plus that stairs to his apartment would have been Cinecitta.
Yeah.
And probably all the interior in the palace where she's sleeping. That's Cinecitta. But where she has that big receiving of the press at the end, that's a real space. I'd have to look it up where it is, but that's a real space. Mm-hmm. It's not Villa de Bergese or something like that. It's one of the other places, but there you have
there is a list on the Wikipedia page of all the locations. Not at all. It doesn't say it's an exclusive list, but there is a list. So I was thinking pilgrimage. Next time we're in Rome,
you will find that some of them are not accessible anymore because
and we did go 20 years ago. You and I did go to the mouth of liars.
Yeah, Book of Verita.
Yeah, and the thing that struck me, because he does this thing where he's like, oh, but his hand goes in it, and then of course it gets bitten off, and he pretends it. So, and they're in the face's face. And I was always thinking, oh, there's a gap behind there. No. But there's not. It's like there's a wall behind there. Yeah. There's a brick wall right there. So I was very surprised because I tried to put my hand through, and it's like, oh wait, no, you can't get more than this. But yeah, that's the kind of fun stuff. I'm sure a lot of people go on film pilgrimages. And
this is a film on which you can do a pilgrimage very easily. Yeah. All the stuff, pretty much all the stuff is going to be available, and nothing has changed. Trevi Fountain's still there, the Spanish Steps still there.
We happened to be there in 2003.
You're probably not going to be able to ride a little moped thingy the way you did then.
Maybe. You might be able to rent some. But we went there in 2003, and that was the 50th anniversary of Roman holiday. And there were posters around the city, and there were some expositions and stuff. I believe they had some of the costuming.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, the costuming. So she wears this super high-end, simple schoolgirl, not quite schoolgirl, like young woman outfit.
It's
but
what
you
young
can
women
see,
wear. Yeah.
You could see how classy it is, and at the same time dressed down. It's like such incredibly smart decision on that. Oh, you're not agreeing. That's the not agreeing face.
There are a couple of things that I thought about. Not the prettiness of the pretty. It's of course period correct because they made it in the period, so duh. But
and the people were pretty, so.
And a mistake in the script that when she's not well, she asked him to undress her. But the thing is, she got dressed herself earlier. She did it herself. She didn't undress and dress herself just fine. So that's kind of weird. And the other thing is where she goes into the water with that skirt. She goes into the water with the skirt, and that's a lot of skirt because it's not just the skirt; it's also the underskirt, and
it'll all be cotton, and it soaks up water. Like no tomorrow.
That's she must be pretty strong swimmer to swim against skirts like that.
And I do want to talk about how strong Princess Anne is, because the moment they start manhandling her to try to get her out, the security, the spy guys, they're manhandling her from both sides, and I'm going, ugh, really? Is that what you're doing to your crown princess? It's like that by itself. But
they may not know what the subject of why.
But yeah, I don't think that's appropriate at all. There are many other ways they could have done that. But then once he helps her, and Irving I think as well, then she's free, and then she starts actually whacking away, like seriously, And I was thinking, with Audrey's ballet training, she could have been one kick-ass. I mean, she was kick-ass in this. This is a kick-ass princess. But she could, if nowadays she could have been one of these kick-ass action leading actresses for superhero films, because
and she would have
is some stuff that she pulls
she
off.
would have been so wanted. And the problem that Audrey Hepburn had when she was a little younger, but not much, is that she kept growing, and there's a height max on how tall you want your ballet dancers to be. So she told out.
Yeah.
And now that you know it, and you will see it, but every time she walks around, she always walks on flats, on ballet flats, never on heels, because otherwise she's too tall for the men. She starts to get into the tallness of the men.
And you can see it when
she's a tall girl.
In the first court scene where she is on these tiny pumps. They're not very high, but they are pumps, because she had to have heels in that scene. You can see that she is as tall as most of the men she's dancing with, and taller than when they make a point that the guy is very short. But even the tall guy, she's fairly up there.
She's looking him in his eye.
So she does not have that problem with Gregory Peck. He was clearly,
because she's so tall, means that you get more strength. The bigger you are, the more strength you get.
And she has the training. She would have been a great Marvel action hero. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And then they do the thing with behind, whether they're walking, and he gets slugged at the corner at the waterside. He gets slugged. He goes into the water. He gets slugged twice in the face and goes in the water. I'm going, oh, basically that means he could die, he could drown. And then she slugs the other guy.
And then jumps
in. And they, fade out, fade in.
Maybe to rescue him, but
and then they just sit there, freeze, and giggle. And I'm going, this is one hell of a kick-ass princess. So.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello. So
She's this is no wilting wallflower.
No, not a wilting wallflower. And maybe all of that contributes to, because she had to squeeze that much into 24 hours. And of the 24 hours, she really only had about 12, because they gave her the drug and all of that.
She slept quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time she's actually out and about, it's probably... we know it's afternoon, because he has at noon he actually goes to the office and comes back. So let's say 1 o'clock before she's even out and about.
Yeah.
She has half a day to assert herself, to go, I can make decisions by myself.
She has a half a day to go adventuring, and then whatever she finds for herself. But that's not a given. It was nothing was ever given.
No. And it's what she does with it herself. And speaking of money, because we established that Joe is permanently flat broke and worse.
And borrowing of everybody.
Debts.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's going to be forever until he's back to the States. She does not get the time to understand money. She understands enough to say, okay, that sounds like a high number. Can you miss that much? And he goes, oh, it's only $1.50.
She understands enough.
But she spends it because she doesn't have to pay for where you stay overnight. She barely has to pay for her own food.
Yeah, but
so
she understands enough. The scene with the flower guy shows you that she understands, because the flower guy offers her flowers, then she sort of thinks, that's part of a gift.
Gets offered flowers her whole
so
life,
she accepts it, and then he says, oh, no, and then she doesn't go weird. She just shows him, I really don't have enough money. She understands not enough money. She does understand that.
She understands I don't have enough, but she doesn't understand I shouldn't spend it on this.
Why shouldn't she? She's going to go home afterwards.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She doesn't have to pay bills. She doesn't have to make sure that she gets fed and watered. Yeah. If she leaves on one cone of ice cream that day, that's fine. She will survive.
And the moment she's fed up, she could go home, basically.
Yeah. So has she learned anything about money? She doesn't even know that Joe has all these money problems.
I think my headcanon for what happens after is, because she did note his address. He told her his address.
She remembers the address.
And she remembers it
and
because
she knows where he works and what his name is.
So she
can always reach him.
I think that it is very possible that she will send him something.
She will definitely send what she promised, which is the 1,000 lira.
And maybe more. Maybe she'll ask, how much should I send? And then she will send that.
Yeah.
Or have the secretary send
or
that.
Or not,
yes.
because then you've got egos and stuff. But
no, I don't think so.
She might...
This is a girl who plays her debts. Absolutely. Yeah. So she will send, and she will send...
she will then realize that, that champagne actually did cost more than that 1,000 lira.
She will ask, what should I send? And then somebody will give her a sensible amount, sensible amount.
And that's another thing she needs to do. She has effectively put the 2 males in her household in their place, and the woman who is kind of nannying her.
Yeah, the Baroness. Yes.
So they are now out, but she has to find somebody. Well, they're not out; they're still going to be in her household, but they're not the confidants. She's gonna have to find new confidants.
Yeah,
and because I was thinking, she's not only come back to her duty and left the guy that she had potentially, if there was enough time, she could find out if that was going to be her husband. But she has also entered a very lonely life, because those parents, they're absent. They're busy being king and queen, and they're clearly not there to help her. That's why I was also, at the beginning of the movie, I'm asking how old is she, and at the end of the movie, I'm asking how old is she. Because if she is 20 ?
She's 20 ?
Yeah, then, and she's going alone on a tour of Europe to be shown to the world and potentially be shown to marriageable parties.
I think it's even worse. I think
because that needs to be done before that she actually needs to follow up on the...
I think the entire princess is sort of based on Elizabeth II, who was in 52 or 53 just newly crowned, but then she already had I think she already had a kid at that time. She was married and had a kid, but she's roughly modeled on her. But Elizabeth became queen quite early for a modern monarch, and it is possible that this father, this king, is actually ailing already, and they know that she has to... They're showing her around to Europe, not only her looking around Europe, but they're showing her around.
She's being shown around, and she knows that.
As the next monarch of this little country, who goes unnamed, but she is getting the tour of being shown around because her father is on the way out. He's dying. And this is what that
would fit a lot more with another quibble I have, is that she's doing all these countries in Europe in 1 week. Nobody in Europe does like 5 countries in Europe in 1 week. That is for Americans.
But they could be in a hurry.
Chinese, people who do not understand Europe and countries. They only have big countries, so if you're going to do like a big piece of land, you're just going to bob around. No, she would, because she also has no time to do that. Just in Rome alone, she needed to do the gala where they...
the reception gala.
Reception, but she has also, all day, she's been touring around the city. And then a gala at night, and then you can't do that again the next day in Amsterdam, because you literally would have to get on a coach or a train or flying. In 1953 you'd probably fly, yes, in little fly plane 1
you're so sick.
To Amsterdam, and then you're not ripe and ready at 8 a.m. to do it again. You need,
that's her job.
Yeah, that's so I get it, but
I wouldn't do it. Yeah,
it's not reasonable that's 1 week.
But if they're
have 2 days in every capital city.
If they're showing her around because this is the last chance that she can do it before she ascends at the throne, that's a different thing.
Yes, if there's a rush, and then there's even more behind her, because we know nothing outside the bubble of what is in the film. We don't know his background, we don't know her background, other than that she's crown princess.
His background is a little bit clearer, because I've seen that before. It's an American who came to Europe because of the war and then hang about.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and
a
he's-
lot. And that same goes for
He's a
Irving,
foreign
I
foreign,
think. Yeah.
they're foreign correspondents.
Yeah, but he came here. He came to Italy because of the war, and then got stuck there. That's so normal. So
Well,
his story is clear and is pretty deducible.
It fits with his age. He's about 35, and she's 24. Let's say she's 24 because Audrey is 24.
Yeah.
That
about right,
completely fits. Yeah. I actually did like her outfits.
Oh, me too.
And the hair. The hair was very interesting. When I was much younger, I was like, ooh, why would you cut your hair?
When you're a long hair, or you are long hair.
It's just, everyone's got their own things.
Yeah.
But I can now
it's
appreciate...
it's really her and really her hair being cut.
Yeah. Yeah. When she goes to accept the Academy Award that she got for this, she has that hair. And it's newly cut.
She kept it for
beautiful, almost pixie cut.
She kept it for a couple of years at least after that. But this was her first real role in for the States. Before this, she was in a bunch of English movies, and I think maybe something Dutch, but I'd have to look that up.
It says
but definitely a couple of English things because I've seen. But she have never had big roles. She did go on stage, and she had good big roles on stage.
Yeah, Gigi.
And of course the ballet, but that she had to stop doing it as ballet, but she still danced for a long time after that, and it gave her this beautiful grace that she is in the physical comedy in this when she's still going and then Gregory Peck is leading her around. It is great,
and that's why these two together is gold, because they were third or fourth on the list of what people wanted, but they perfect. This is the right choice.
But you need Audrey Hepburn has such a young energy, and she. Being as young, but also she had that, and Gregory Peck was always so very quiet energy.
Yeah.
Even though he's playing a guy that has some shady things going on, he still has that quietness, and that works really well together.
Yeah, and she has to do quite a bit of mimicry when she is in her princess role. She has to, like, little movements of the face have to tell a whole story, and everybody gives her the time to do it, and these beautiful close-ups.
But that very last scene when they have to say goodbye, that is, I think that is the best scene that they do. Yeah. Is when they're sitting in that car and they're talking, and she is so good in that. He's also good, but she is so good in that.
He's supporting that she can shine.
Yeah, this is her moment, and it's beautiful.
And she can show that frailty of the young woman that you can only capture when it's actually real. We were lucky that she was in movies at that age. That they found her. That they said, okay, we're putting her in.
Yeah, we are lucky that she was too tall for the ballet, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, Audrey.
She must have been so upset about that.
Yeah,
it's really yes.
Yeah.
But the ballet world lost something, but the rest of us gained so much more.
Yeah. And the two other actresses that were up for the role were Elizabeth Taylor and Jean Simmons.
Jean Simmons could have done a good job.
Yeah,
but it would have been a completely different job.
Yeah, but it's got more of the same quality. Elizabeth Taylor would have been...
Sharp, very sharp.
Yeah, would have been... and she was... Princess Anne Audrey version was already quite kick-ass, but I think it would have been more kick-ass with... Yeah,
but she had that youthless, that softness of that insecurity of youth. Yeah. That's what she has as Anne, and if Elizabeth Taylor would play it, it would definitely be a much sexier and less insecure Anne. And a different Anne may have still worked, but it would have been completely different.
Yeah.
And I do think, and that's why I think there's a bunch of extra names on the screenwriters list, is that they did some rewrites. I think the book of VIII, the Mouth of Truth, is an addition to the script because because you run into the thing.
It could literally be
because it's such a
filmed,
and I think that if you had somebody else play it like Elizabeth Taylor, they would have done something else, or maybe picked up on some other element and put it in.
Yeah, I mean she would have made it shine a very, very way of her own.
Yeah.
And I also absolutely believe that Gene Simmons could do this role.
Yes.
But I'm still glad we got
Audrey.
Because it's the most precious thing ever. I love this film to death. One of the things that Audrey may have contributed to, and possibly Willy Wyler, the director, is the name Anya. Because the moment you say that to a Dutch person, you go, okay. Yeah, that's a very good Dutch girl name. And it's maybe a little
slightly old-fashioned,
yeah.
and enough away from the current Dutch thing that you don't go, oh, she's a Dutch princess, because she's obviously not a Dutch princess.
No,
she's not a Dutch princess.
She's not a Dutch princess.
No.
I was thinking Curlande.
Yeah. We will do the Curland thing at some point, but not today.
It's a fictional
fiction.
universe.
And it's somewhere in the north. A cold water country, definitely. Ice country, yes.
Yes.
But...
and I think that's actually nice to keep it completely unknown. Also doing... Yeah, okay, actually, if the king was... the king or queen... who was before her is alien.
No, they say king.
Then there's a king and queen. We know the mother and father. They were being informed.
And they're talking about the father as the king. So that's it's a king and the queen consort.
Yeah, which is how it went. What about the spy camera?
Yeah, that was
so.
Fun.
Do we believe that was real?
Yes.
Or do we believe that they actually had those at that time? Or do we think this is a little bit James Bondian?
No.
It existed.
What I think is that, like Joe, Irving also came from the army, and he would have taken this with him. He's from the press corps in the army, and maybe some spy stuff, and you get stuff. And these dudes are so army, so ex-army, because that's what Americans in Europe at that time would have been, is ex-army.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were back home.
Yeah. Yeah. Why else would they have stayed? And they clearly didn't have a girl or boy to go back home to, or non-binary other significant other.
I think Irving has one, two, three, or five girls.
Yes,
at any one time.
All here, and Joe doesn't.
Joe doesn't
initially like her. It's not the first thing that he thinks about.
Yeah.
The only reason he takes her takes her with him is because she would actually be in trouble if he left her on that bench. She could be raped.
Voiced her off on the taxi driver,
which was odd. There was no way that taxi driver could take her. He would take her to the police.
I think that is still in his own mindset that makes him try to steal from kids. It's that part of his personality.
Maybe he has a tiny little bit of an arc as well, where he's realizing, I'm actually a good guy. I don't need to act like this. I don't need to gamble.
And I think that this is why my headcanon still says there is a possibility in future that if she makes the overture back to him, that they can do a actual dating round and try and figure out if that is what would be good for either of them.
Yeah.
Because if he were to choose her and actually do that, he would have to give up a lot of things like anonymity and all this gambling around and all this stuff. And
that is a legit concern. And this movie actually concerns itself with legit concerns, namely her duty to her position, to her country, and to her family, because she can say, okay, I can do my duty to my country other ways, and I'm not going to be crown princess, I'm not going to be queen, but the duty to her family is she has to eventually become queen. So whoever she chooses,
even more than that she actually has to have a baby. I mean, it would be good if she also had a baby, but even more than to have a baby, she has to become queen or decide actively not to become queen, and then what?
And that's hard.
That's hard. You have to go the other way, and
that will only work if she has a younger sibling.
Yeah, and she doesn't.
And most of these people tend not to say no to
There's only if the alternative of being alone without the guy or gal you love.
Yeah.
That is when people say, okay, now I'm willing to give. I'm wanting to give this up for the other thing that I really really want.
So if I see her coming back and she sent her household people away and said, no, I'm an adult now. You're not going to be babying me, but she's there left alone in the room. And I'm thinking, that's a big golden cage. And it's a lonely golden cage. And then the next day she goes to meet the press, and they can't really communicate because it's far too public. But if she later, she goes home and then she gets him and she gives him an audience, she gives him whatever the terms are. It's like, she calls for him and says, I want this guy from the American press to work in my country.
She can.
And she can do that, and then she can just have private conversations with him.
Yes.
I think this movie doesn't negate that. I think it does stop before that and says, this is it.
But it's to the movie, that's not the point. The point, the movie, that's why it's not a rom-com.
No, it's the coming of age.
It's her coming of age is the point of the movie. The romance is secondary to that, and it's open. The rest is open.
Yes. And so Gregory Peck giving her equal billing was correct because it is her story.
And he knew that.
Yeah,
He's a smart cookie.
She is also the actress that actually can carry the story, and I believe the other two actresses would have carried it differently, but just as well, and would have also had to but they might have had more credit. But this was because this was her first American film. But she did get immediately the Academy Award. She won practically everything with this, the BAFTAs and the gold and whatnot.
It's a good thing it didn't stop her from her momentum, because it's
hard on people who win
the
first time. Yeah.
Now they don't do that anymore. They don't give a first timer a whole bunch of awards because they're worried that they will implode. It's happened before, but.
I don't think that it works that way.
Yeah, I've seen it happen, but then you get the problem that once they're ready to receive it, they're not doing anything to give an award for. That's a problem. So you get like a very odd.
Henry Ford. He hadn't had an award until they had to give him an honorary Academy Award after 40 years. Because, dude, you did so much, and every time it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So it does need to happen.
Yeah. And so it's very. This is very. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a person to select these things, but I'm glad she got them, and I'm glad she was apparently pretty happy with them, and she didn't implode her, and she had a wonderful career after.
Oh my God, yes.
And
we're just so glad that we got to see her.
The only problem with this movie, and it's a huge problem about that size.
That size problem, yeah.
Yeah, it's not in color.
Oh, yes. So they were going to film in color.
Yeah.
They were going to film in color, and then the camera couldn't get color cameras. They couldn't afford color cameras to go on location in Rome.
Yeah.
And so the question is, would the film still be more in the mind's eye right now if it was in color? And I
wouldn't
think
be less.
so.
It wouldn't be less.
Yeah. But I think it has fallen out with the youngest of the generations. I just saw a review by a couple of 20-somethings, and they were definitely debating the fact that it is a black and white movie and what that means to... They had never heard of it before, and it's like, to somebody of my age, to Gen X sitting right here, we're going, ouch!
You know, I feel for you if you have not heard of this movie.
Yes.
I feel for you if you have not seen this movie.
This is the must-see list.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, simple, beautiful, Freudian movie.
Yeah, so never let something black and white
scare you off.
you from seeing a movie. However, I do agree that I would love to have seen it in color.
Yeah.
Yes. The chase scenes around Rome on the scooter, and when she crawls on the scooter and she's like, that's kind of cool. Whee! I'm like, yes! Yes! Somebody.
So dangerous.
Yes, somebody knows what. Oh, and the antics. And now I could see with a better version of it. Of course, you can see that it is a stunt woman and a stunt man when they start bumping into things, and but it's just lovely.
And that
So
ridiculous
wonderful.
little car of Irving.
Yes,
And then
the little duck.
then big Gregory Peck that sits in the car and then has to come out of the car.
figure
Do
out
we
how to
go
get
for
out.
do we go for the roof or do we go for down and through the door?
But Cary Grant did that a couple of times, and so did Rock Hudson. Is trying to get out of a teeny tiny car.
It's always fun.
Oh my goodness, I love Gregory Peck
Yes.
as well.
He's usually a little
He's
bit
amazing.
underrated because and nothing to do with him. It's just that he has this calm energy, and so you get calm when you see him. But he done a lot of good roles. But yeah, anything he is in is always good. Just like what Audrey does is always good, and what he does is always good. So together they're dynamites.
Yeah.
And Irving, the guy who plays Irving, I don't think I've ever saw in anything else.
No, oh yeah, there's some physical action there because Gregory Peck, Joe, topples Irving over several times.
And makes him fall on his face. And
I love how that male energy where he's trying to convey secret information.
Yeah, shut up!
But it's the same kind of thing that he would do if he wanted to be alone with this absolutely stunning, beautiful girl.
And Irving understands that
he's
part
like,
at least.
Hey, I get it. I'm leaving. And he's like, no, stay. And it goes on. And
mixed messages, my dear, mixed messages.
Yes, and he actually has to floor him twice to get him to not spill the beans.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, his Joe is not the bestest of persons. Communication is a skill, and he was failing right that day.
Yeah. I think he can spend the next 5 years learning to do that better, and then he's ready to marry her, and then we'll have a royal wedding.
The problem is, I think, in a practical sense, that she's outgrowing him real fast.
Possibly, yeah.
And he may not be the right, but he's the Mr. Right Now. And
very good Mr. Right Now.
Yeah, but you need a Mr. Right Now on your way to Mr. Right.
Actually, she needed a Mr. Something at all.
Yes.
To have to get out of that child mode and into I'm a young woman. And she needed, whether it was a man or a woman, but she needed to talk to peers, equals, adults that weren't part of the court.
Yeah.
And he was it. And, he's Gregory Peck, so he's yummy.
He is yummy.
So at the end of the day, you want to kiss him.
Yes.
So,
I'm not complaining.
No. This is, I would say this is like top of your list.
Yeah.
Of course you've seen it, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. But if anybody you meet that hasn't seen it, like see that first.
Yeah, I think that's my opinion.
In my opinion.
And we're sticking
to
it.